Hello, welcome to the vlog. When I left you last, I was at Nantwich about to do my laundry. I'm still at Nantwich, but I have now done my laundry, so I'm setting off. I want to get to the other side of Audlem today, and that's a few miles away, which sounds trivial. It would be, were it not for the, I think, 15 lock Audlem flight, plus a couple of other random locks as well, on the way. So, it's now 11 o'clock. This could be a long afternoon, I think. Setting off was briefly delayed by some congestion under the bridge immediately ahead, but not to worry, there's a man balancing on a plank over to the right, down the short arm. And to the left, a boat horse sculpture in wood, one of several works dotted along the towpath from here, apparently in an artistic trail which this little model describes and tells you what to look out for. At last, through the bridge and past a small wharf. Getting those boats out, since they face the opposite bank directly, must be quite the manoeuvre. Busy here today, with moored boats on both sides and a steady flow of traffic coming the other way, but gently does it and all's well. Bye-bye, Nantwich. You did my laundry splendidly. You turn a corner, behind which is where the town of Nantwich really lies, and you go over this aqueduct above the B5341 Chester Road if you're curious, and you start to skirt the town. It's quite scenic for a bunch of railings. There's a lot of boats moored along here. It's a good long stretch and lots of shops and facilities in the town. Notice the lock-style gate on the exit to this bridge. Presumably this saves having to drop stop planks in if they need to isolate a section of canal. They can just shut the gate. You'll notice in the field on the right a flock of cows happily grazing away. But cast your eye to port, and what's this? An escapee who's not only broken from the pack, but swum the canal and established his own fiefdom on the towpath. The thing you notice about the Shropshire is that it's very straight. Dare I say boring? But to make up for it, the scenery is the best I've yet passed. Lush green fields, rolling countryside into the distance. This is quintessential British pastoral splendour. And this is the quintessential British canal lock, with the quintessential British queue forming ahead of it. Yes, an actual queue of 4 boats, with others coming down from the other side. This could take a while, but no worries, you just hop onto the towpath and chat to the other boaters in the sunshine. There's all the time in the world. Well, that monumental queue of 4 or 5 boats waiting to go up, there were a couple who also came down. That's taken at least an hour, which has rather put me back in my schedule. I'm only just through that first lock now, and there's another one to go. Then it's on to Audlem. I'm told, I didn't know about this, there's some sort of folk festival or similar going on at Audlem this coming weekend. So of course hordes of boats are now heading that way to get themselves moored up in advance. So my plan to potentially stop halfway through the Audlem flight is almost certainly not going to come to anything, because there will be boats there already, so I'm going to have to do the whole lot. It's so straight here, you'd think the Romans built this canal. In fact, it wasn't dug until the late 1820s, so it's really quite new for a canal. As I chugged merrily along, I couldn't help but admire the precision driving of these guys on the combine and tractor. If I tried this, I'd end up spraying grass all over the field, or in the tractor driver's face, or if I were the tractor driver, in my own face. It's like the Red Arrows, but with farming machinery. My own limit of precision steering was avoiding this obstruction, which when you get closer you notice has a helpful sign. No kidding. Isn't this mighty fine on a splendid day? Now let's talk about swans, who always seem to plant themselves directly in front of the boat. This one's no exception, and we're coming up to a bridge, so he can't go sideways anyway. I was convinced I was going to run him over, and ended up virtually idling so as not to do so. But even after the bridge, he wouldn't go sideways. Get out of the way! This is going to be a very long bit of canal. Finally! Thank you. The geese, meanwhile, were largely staying well out of it in the fields. Look, there's those 2 hotel boats that I saw in Nantwich. One powered, one unpowered butty. I suspect we'll keep leapfrogging each other along this stretch. A short distance further on and we come to one of the well-known marinas just under this bridge on the right. I don't know what they did to win that accolade, but they're clearly very proud of it. At this point, I'm about half a mile from Audlem, and a long line of boats began to appear on the towpath moorings. Surely, I thought, this can't stretch all the way to the village, but the line went on. And on. And on. And on, until finally the first Audlem lock came into view. So yes, the boats did stretch that far. That's an impending folk festival for you. Thank goodness no one's hogging the lock landing. I can pull in and get to work. Notice here at Lock 1 I'm clearly full of beans, vim and vigour, sprinting to the lock like Mo Farah. And with the first 2 down, Audlem's main pound is also rammed busy with boats. There'll be no stopping here for me. A bit weird exiting Lock 3 though, as what looks like it ought to be the lock landing on the left is actually a water point, and there's a boat on it, so nowhere for me to pause to come back and shut the lock gate. This caused much scratching of my head until the chap on the water point boat said he'd shut it for me, which was very kind. That meant I could tick over past one of the very famous canal pubs, the Shropshire Fly. And just beyond, this building, which you can't really see, but I rather liked anyway. Then it's the start of a real solid bit of locking, several in quick succession. Notice how my pace has flagged somewhat, but with steely determination I plodded on despite the heat.
It's 4 o'clock. There are 8 more locks to go. I'm just going into the 8th now, and I am absolutely shattered.
And then, as if by magic, a lock keeper appeared, possibly called Mr. Ben. He just happened to be passing, and with nothing coming down the flight, he went ahead and set all the locks my way, that is, empty with the lower gates open, so I could just charge straight into the next one after the next one with no messing. With 13 locks done, relief as, just ahead of that boat in the distance, there's enough space for one more, me, to moor for the night, leaving the last 2 locks for a fresh new day in the morning. Not so promising on the weather front when I got up though, with mist, murk and cousin fog all coming to pay a visit. It was quite scenic in its own way, so I headed off, not to be deterred, along and past the line of moored boats. There's Lock 14 of the 15 in the gloom, and another boat just going in ahead of me. But within the space of doing that lock, the sun began to peep from behind the clouds, promising another toasty day.
Good, that is the last 2 locks of the Audlem flight done. I've now got about a mile's chug until I get to the next flight of 5, and then I go into Market Drayton, which is my target for today.
First though, a green corridor of tweeting birds and flickering sunlight. Then it's the haze of the morning sun beating down on another ramrod straight section of the Shropshire Union. Oh look! More locks! 5 in total at Audlem. Actually, much of the Shropshire is lock-free, but when they do come, they come in lumps all at once. I can think of worse places to be waiting in a lock queue though. My turn, and today's approach can best be described as ambling. Halfway through, and there's boats going both ways, so plenty of people offering help. Not that I always take it, sometimes there is a pleasure and satisfaction in doing them yourself. I've seen honesty stalls before, where you pick up an egg or something and leave a coin, but nothing quite this fancy. Meat, cakes, pies, quite the banquet. And out of the top lock. Once I've done the next 5 at Tyrley, there'll be just one more until the end of the entire canal.
Lock's done, so now it's about 3 miles to the far side of Market Drayton, where hopefully I should be able to get moored.
Plenty of boats around today, not surprising in the sunshine. And the Shropshire is a very popular canal too. This one's a training boat, a novice skipper at the helm. Another of these rather moody but very tranquil corridors, the trees forming a tunnel of calm through which to boat. Here's the outskirts of Market Drayton, another very pleasant mooring spot I think, nice and quiet, lots of solar too. And just before the village, a little wharf. Lots of interesting looking boat renovation going on here. Then it's under the A53 and you emerge to a little basin of houses on the left with a load of moorings sticking out into the canal. I don't know if each house owns a mooring, but that would be quite cool. And new ones going in too. On the bridge ahead, a splendid old wharf building. Probably now offices, I'm guessing. Go through the bridge and there's a water point and toilet emptying facilities on the right. Talbot Wharf is on the left. Just spotted as I went past this Grade 2 listed World War II pillbox. And these are the visitor moorings, where I'll pull in and phone some local friends to see if they're coming to visit. Turns out my friends can't make it today, but we have a plan B involving them turning up at Norbury Junction a few miles further on in a couple of days. So I'm using the afternoon to carry on a bit further. A shame to waste the sunshine by not moving like these lazy cows. Be warned, as you go through, I think, Bridge 61, it gets really quite tight for space. This is another of those cross your fingers, shut your eyes and hope to not meet anyone moments. You might think, oh, you'd squeeze another boat in there if you push up to the bank, but the bank is very shallow and formed of sloping rock sides, so you can't get as far out of the way of an oncoming boat as you'd want. And the vegetation on the offside is quite intrusive and will probably scratch the paintwork. This made me laugh though. The bottom of Tyrley locks, and look at the vicious overflow wash. A very unfortunate hireboat that went ahead of me got sent sideways into the rock face by that as they tried to enter the lock. I feel quite bad now. I suggested they go first. Luckily, by the time I went through it had calmed down a tad, but even so you definitely felt it pushing the boat off course, which is not what you want when you're trying to line up with a few vertical feet of concrete. Listen closely and you'll hear the port side clonking the wall. Dang it. Worse, coming out of that lock, you'd think you'd head over to the lock landing to get the next lock set. Well, except that the oncoming boat is passing on the wrong side for some reason. But anyway, you can't reach the next landing because there's no depth to the water on the right. You must set the next lock with the gates open before leaving the bottom one so you can go straight in. Typical canal, you can't see the bottom, but I assure you, you won't float in that. Lo and behold, as I started up the flight, another lockie appeared, and after sorting the hire boat, worked the gear up to the top for me. All I had to do was stand on the back of the boat and not get blown sideways by the wind as usual. As you come up entirely top lock, these marvellous cottages are to your side. Almost 2 centuries old and a splendidly varied history, including Cadbury using the wharf for the chocolate supply chain. Vital. This is where I'll stop for the night, another official visitor mooring immediately you exit the top lock. Again, facilities here, including toilet emptying, waste and water. And I'll have this spot, thank you very much. It's so peaceful, just the ducks quacking. That'll do me for now. Cheerio.